Hello friends and welcome to my channel. This is my January wrap up where I'm going to talk about all the books I read in January. I think I read between 8 to 9 books. I'm not 100% sure. In this video I'll also be doing a giveaway at the end. So if you guys are interested in entering for that, just stay tuned for the details. Now just to let you guys know, I upload every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So if you guys are interested in watching any of my videos, they're always up on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for watching and let's continue on to the video. Alright, so I'm going to go in with my Good Molecule Silicone Free Priming Moisturizer. And the first book I'm going to speak about for my January wrap up is a book I am currently reading and probably going to finish up today since I'm like 75% of the way through. That book is A Worthy Opponent. This is the third book in the Wicked Villain series. Now I'm going in with my Revolution foundation stick in F13 and I'm going to do all my creams because I'm going to be using a powder foundation. I originally picked up A Worthy Opponent back in like I think November, but I never finished it. I got like 25% of the way through and then I stopped reading it. So I decided to pick it up so I can continue the series. Now, like I have said in my past videos, this is a smutty Disney retelling series. It all revolves around Hades' sex club. That's like the main scene that takes place in all these books. I feel like this one is good. It's not as good as the first two, so it's taking me a while to like finish it and get into it. But I do want to move on to the next book in the series, so I'm kind of forcing myself to get through it. It is good, like I'm gonna read it. I feel like it's gonna be around a 4-star because it is what it is. It's just a smutty read. And this one is about Tinkerbell and Hook, Captain Hook. The next book I read in January was The Wallflower Wager. This book is the third book in the Girl Meets Duke series. Alright, so I'm going in with my Rare Beauty concealer and I'm going to blend that out and set that before I put on my powder foundation. I'm just gonna look real quick. I don't remember what reading I gave this book, but I do remember this book. Yeah, I figured. So I gave this book 3 stars. For me, it's like anywhere between a 3 and a 3.5. It's not my favorite in the series. I felt like the first book was my favorite, but I did enjoy this one. This one had way more smut than any of the other 2 books had. And I did like the heroine. Her name is Penelope. You meet her in the first 2 books. Something different about this book is that like Penelope was the aggressor when it came to the smut. Like normally in these historical romances, like the woman would like try to preserve their virtue, whatever, but she just was that girl. I really enjoyed this story. It's about Penelope and she usually takes in like unwanted animals, so her estate is full of animals, and I believe like her family doesn't want her to be like a spinster and they want her like out in society because she's like really reclusive into herself and just her estate and her close 3 friends. But her family is like, we won't be supporting you in your estate any longer if you don't get out in society and you don't socialize, get a husband and stuff like that. So next door to her estate is a house for sale, and this Duke Gabriel, he ends up buying that estate because she's a lady and she is the neighbor next door, and he knows that if he fixes up the house he can sell it for a lot more money because of who the neighbor is, which is Penelope, and she comes from really good money, so he knows people will pay a lot of money to live next door to her. And I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Infallible Powder Foundation. I'm just going to use the sponge it comes with. Right here I already used it, and I'm just going to rub that all over my face. So because she is on the verge of being evicted by her family from the estate and them giving up the estate, and Gabriel can't have that because that was one of the reasons why he bought the estate, because she was a neighbor and he wanted to make money off of it. He can't have her moving away because then his incentive to buy and fix up the estate is gone. So he is willing to help her find her animals decent homes so that her family won't cut her off and make her move. And then he can sell his estate and make the money he was planning to make off of it. Because Gabriel is helping Penelope find her animals good homes, and making sure she gets out in society so that he can sell the house next door to her and still have her as a neighbor and make the most profit. They obviously develop a relationship, and that's where the story continues. Next, I'm going to go in with this Anastasia powder bronzer in Rich Amber, and I'm going to contour with it. So the next book I'm going to speak about is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I'm using this book to do a Jack Edwards recommendation. He's a YouTuber here who does kind of like book reviews. So I'm also going to speak about this book in that video as well. I'm going to touch a little bit on it in my January wrap. So I know this book is a very polarizing book. People have strong views, like they either absolutely love it or they hate it. Like I have not met anybody who is in between about this book, and I am on the absolutely adored it, loved it side. I can't wait to read more of Sally Rooney. Like I felt like this book was just so realistic. Like it was the most realistic love story I've ever read about. Like I literally felt like I was reading someone's diary entries, like a real person. Now this book is about Connell and Marianne, and it is just about how they met in high school and how they are so different. Like Connell is super popular and Marianne is like the outspoken outcast. They develop a relationship anyways, even though in school they're so different and run in such different circles. And then like this whole book is about just how life, you know, kind of has them apart, and then they come back together, and then they kind of go apart again, and it's just that yo-yo that you go through sometimes with someone in your life. And with Sally Rooney writing, I didn't think I would like it because I know she doesn't use quotations when people are having conversations. But low-key, I felt like that's such a brilliant move, because me as a reader, I had to pay attention to what I was reading. Like sometimes you read and people have conversations and you're like, okay, that's what they're saying. But like in her books, you have to read carefully and pay attention, because you're not sure if they're doing something or if they're saying something, which I don't mind that in a book. Thought I did, but clearly I don't, if I absolutely loved it. And I liked it because I feel like it gave the story like a real like directness, like this is what's happening. And like there was no embellishments in her story. It was just so realistic, and I feel like it was refreshing. Like I absolutely loved it. I would still classify this as a romance, even though the outcome isn't the typical outcome that happens in romance. Alright, so next I'm going to take this Glowish by Huda Beauty in 2 medium and use this as my bronzer. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Bride Test. Now with this book, I did post a whole reading review on this trilogy on my channel if you guys are interested. It is marketed as like a steamy rom-com, and I would say the first one for sure. In my idea of what a smut book is, the first one for sure in this trilogy is a steamy rom-com. This one not so much, because there was only like 2 scenes. If half the book ain't smut, it's not really in the smut category for me. I'm sorry, like it's a tame book for me then. And again, like I read like the Wicked Villain series, like that book is probably like 50 to 75% smut and 2% plot. Like that's a real smut read for me in my opinion, but The Bride Test isn't. And it's also my least favorite in that Kiss Quotient trilogy. So this is about Kwan's brother who has autism. His name is Kai, and his mom wants him to get a wife. So she goes to Vietnam and picks up like a mail order bride for him. And I'm not going to get too much into it now, because I did speak about it in detail, my problems with this book and storyline and stuff. So I'm just going to briefly say what the story is about. For my eyes, I'm going to use this Too Faced Melted Matte Shadow in the color Amaretto. I'm just going to play around with makeup and do something different. Or maybe something similar with just different products. And then I'm going to go in with this Mint Melt No Budge eyeshadow in the color Ice Cream. I'll just see where my makeup takes me today. I don't really have an idea what I'm doing, where I'm going. So his mom goes to Vietnam and gets him this girl named Esma. Now, in the story, they say that Kai is so in the story they say that Kai's like a really nice guy. He's not going to say no to anybody. So his mom approaches him and says, hey, I'm going to bring this girl from Vietnam. You're going to house her in your house. And he's just like, sure, like, his mom knows that he's super nice, he's not going to say no, and he's just going to say yes. And she's like, at the end of the summer, if you don't want to marry her, I'm just going to send her back to Vietnam. Esma, her name is Mai, but when she comes to the US, she takes an American name and she picks Esma. So I'm just going to refer to her as Esma. Esma originally, when she meets Kai's mother, doesn't want to go through with that plan. She doesn't want to make someone fall in love with her to get a visa and a green card, but her mom convinces her that it's a great idea and she should definitely take advantage of the situation and do it to better their lives and her daughter's life. So Esma comes to the United States and stays with Kai, trying to make him fall in love with her, and that's just what the premise of the story is about. It's about Esma trying to make Kai fall in love with her so she can stay in the US for a green card. Like I said in my Kiss Quotient trilogy, to be honest, I wouldn't recommend this book. I feel like you can read the first book and the third book in order and have a better reading experience by skipping over this one. Like, I wouldn't add this one, because this one definitely brought the rating down for the whole trilogy for me. If not, that trilogy would have been a solid 4-star, but I gave this a 2-star. To me personally, it just has a lot of problematic elements that I don't agree with. If I had known, like, I probably would have skipped over this one, taken my own advice, and read the first and the third, because those two are my favorite. And the first one's about Michael, and the third one, which I'm going to speak about now, is about Quan, and them two are mainly the ones shown in book 1. So like Kai isn't even really spoken about in 1 or 3, so you wouldn't miss out on anything if you didn't go in order. Now the next book I'm going to talk about in my January wrap-ups is The Heart Principle, and this one is the third one in the Kiss Quotient trilogy. Now this one I gave a 4-star to. I absolutely loved it. I love Quan as a hero. He is such a sweet guy. Like, he comes off amazing in the first book when you meet him with Michael, and then you just continue to love him in his own story. Okay, so I did a big mistake, and whatever, this is what these makeup videos are about, just testing stuff. So I used the Too Faced Chocolate Matte eyeshadows. I would recommend using these before doing your foundation, because this is kind of coming really low into my foundation and I'm not able to blend it out anymore because it kind of dried up. So I'm just gonna wipe that off and start over. It kind of stained my eyelids red too, so I'm just gonna go in with some concealer and try to clean this up. Okay, so the third book is about Quan and Anne is a violinist. She actually went viral for her violin skills, and she's not able to cope after her viral moment. Like, she has lost her mojo to kind of play, and she's like trying to be focused on getting that back. And at the same time, while she's going through that, her boyfriend at the time tells her that he wants to see other people because he knows like she's the person he wants to settle down with, but he just wants to make sure, like, he wants to test out other things and people before settling for her, which is completely an asshole move. So her friends advise her to take this time while they are kind of not together to see what she likes and try new things for herself. Because that was a fail, I'm going to just go in with a palette I 100% trust. Never steers me wrong. It's the Whatever Colourpop palette. It's my favorite palette. When I usually don't know what I'm doing or I have a mistake, I'll just grab this palette. So she decides to join a dating site because she's also kind of like a yes man. Like, she never wants to let anybody down, so she's always saying yes to things for them, even though she really doesn't want to do it, or she's just always saying yes to things that she doesn't want to do, but that everyone thinks it's best for her. So just to keep everyone happy, she just does it. But she decides to join a dating app where she can meet someone she doesn't know, who doesn't know her. They can have a one-night stand. She doesn't have to please them. Like, she doesn't have to say yes to what they want or anything because she doesn't know them, so she's not going to care about their opinion. They're not going to know her, so they're not going to have like advice on what she can do and stuff. So she's just going to be able to be free and be herself. So that's why she chooses to go on this dating app and try to find like a one-night stand person. Now Quan is also on this dating app because he recently had some medical complications he was going through and came out on the other end doing better, so he wanted to get back to his normal life, and dating is something that he wanted to jump back into, but because of the medical issues he was going through, he kind of became a little insecure in himself. So he also decided to try a dating app where he could meet someone who didn't know about his issues and he could just also be free and be himself. So Anne and Quan get matched up, and the first few times that they try to meet up and do stuff, like, things don't work out. And I actually like that about this book because they keep saying like, oh, like, we're just gonna meet up and do this one thing and then that's it, we'll never speak again. But then they keep speaking again to keep planning the next time, and they don't know that they're kind of like dating, but they don't want to call it that since they only had one thing in mind, but it just keeps not working out, so they have to plan it again and again. That was really cute in the book, and I really liked this one because I felt like Anne was a real person. Like in A Kiss Quotient, I like Stella, she was adorable, but this one I felt like Anne was a real person and with real anxiety and real issues that we face. Like, this book felt a lot more personal from the author to me than any of the other two books in this trilogy. And then I got to the author's note at the end, and she said she put a lot of herself in this book, and I really felt that and I really enjoyed that in this book. I give this one a 4 stars. Okay, so I did brown eyeliner, and then I used this lashes on my eyes, and this is what they look like. I love them. They're wild and wispy, just like the back says. The next book I read in January was Confess by Colleen Hoover. Okay, so this book was definitely a 5-star read for me this month. This book is about Owen and Auburn just moves to this town and she needs money. So she's outside this art gallery where the owner of the art gallery, who happens to be Owen, puts a help wanted sign, and since she needs a job, she instantly gets hired. So at first Owen recognizes Auburn, but Auburn doesn't recognize Owen. So while you're reading the book, you want to know how Owen knows her, but she doesn't know Owen. Now, the art gallery that Owen runs is where people write down their confessions, and he'll pick a handful of confessions and turn them into paintings. So obviously Owen and Auburn develop a relationship. I don't want to say much because you really should go into this book blind. I went into it blind and I enjoyed it. It was a quick, easy read. For my blush, I'm going to use this Roxy Revolution palette. I'm just going to mix like these top 3 colors, like a bunch of colors. This book I read in the month of January is Reminders of Him. Now this book just released this month and I'm so excited that I got my hands on it, and I absolutely love this cover. Like, this is like, I don't know if you could tell, it's like a shiny metallic, but then like with this rainbow on, it's so pretty. I absolutely love this book. I tapped it up. I don't do that a lot, but when I'm enjoying a book, I start to tap it up. This is a 4-star for me because I felt like at parts it dragged. Like, it could have been a lot shorter, but I really love the story. I love the dilemma that all the characters were facing in this book. It was an emotional read. Like, even like, I think for like 75% of the book, the main character is literally crying. So it is an emotional read. You feel for the main characters, but definitely one I would 100% recommend. Like, another Colleen Hoover slam dunk. She does not ever disappoint. Now, this book is about Kenna, and Kenna just got out of prison and she wants to see her daughter. Because she gave birth to her daughter in jail and she hasn't seen her daughter since the birth, and even then her daughter was a preemie, so she didn't even get a chance to look at her daughter. She literally gave birth and the baby got taken away because then she had to go back to jail. The people who have her daughter have taken all rights away from Kenna, so she's kind of in a defeated mindset when she gets out of jail and tries to see her daughter. Now, she does make friends with a bar owner who does know who her daughter is and has a relationship with the people who have her daughter and take care of her daughter. So he gets to know who Kenna is and kind of wants to help her reunite with her daughter, but without messing up the relationship he has with the people who have custody of her daughter. So, and then while reading the story, you also find out why Kenna ends up going to jail and how she also lost custody of her child. So I like this story. It's a lot about, you know, not judging people because you don't know the full situation, and also giving people second chances because people do change, they do learn from their mistakes, and they do grow. The last book I read in January was Redeeming Love. I got inspired to read this book because the movie just came out this month, which I still need to go see because I was so set on finishing the book before the movie came out so I can be ready for the movie, and now it's been out for like a week or maybe even 2 weeks, and I haven't done anything to go see it. So this book was my most favorite read out of all my reads for January, and I 100% recommend this book. Now, Francine Rivers, I do believe she is a Christian writer. At this point I don't even know what I'm doing, I'm just putting lip stuff on. This is Maybelline Super Stay Crayon in the color Trust Your Gut, and then I'm also going to go in with this Elf and Jen Atkins lip pencil. Alright, so I'm going to go in with this BH Cosmetics Alondra and Elsie lip gloss in Stick With You. Now, if you're not a spiritual person or anything with God bothers you, then I wouldn't recommend you read this. You don't mind that in a book, or if you are a spiritual religious person, then I would recommend this to you. I mean, if you could look past the God parts of this book, I would recommend this book to you because it's so good. But it is really prevalent in the story, so if you can't look past that, I understand. But this book is about a girl named Angel, and from a young age, Angel isn't wanted by her father. Her mother dies of a broken heart because her father kind of abandons them, and then she gets sold to a child predator, and then from then on she goes into prostitution. So she's working as a prostitute when, I believe his name is Michael Hosea, yeah. When Michael sees her, and immediately God is like, that's your wife, go get her. So he pays a lot of money, he visits her a handful of times, and she just laughs at him, you know, doesn't want to go with him, and he gives up on her. But, you know, God speaks to him and is like, don't give up on her, you gotta go back and get her. So eventually he does go back and get her, and she is in, I want to say a lot because I absolutely love this book, but I don't want to say too much. He goes back and gets her. He saves her from the situation she's in because, you know, it literally becomes life-threatening for her. But while he is healing her from the situation he just took her out of, she is literally plotting and telling him, like, I'm gonna leave, like, just because you married me doesn't mean anything, here's your ring back. And she's kind of like disrespecting him, and he is getting completely frustrated with her, but he just has the patience of a saint. Like, he's just taking whatever it is she's throwing at him, and he is just like, you know what, God, you told me she's for me, so I'm gonna handle this. So his brother-in-law, his sister had passed away, his brother-in-law comes and to check on Michael because they're a close family, and he was away looking for gold, and he comes back home and he visits Michael, and he realizes Angel, the prostitute, is there. So at first he thinks that Michael doesn't know who she is, so he thinks that she's kind of like finessing Michael and tricking him into marriage. But Michael's like, no, I 100% know who she is, like, I know her background, I took her out of that. And the brother's floored, like, he does not understand how Michael can take a woman like this and love her and treat her like a wife and give her a good life. So the brother gets sent on like a mission for Michael, like, oh, sell these in the city with me, and Angel sees that as a way to escape. She's like, oh, he's going to the city, I'm gonna take the ride with him and escape. So she takes the ride with the brother-in-law, and she goes back into prostitution, the only thing she knows. So then Michael again comes to her rescue and saves her and takes her out of that situation again for the second time. So it's a lot of back and forth of her being stubborn, her putting herself in situations, and it gets to the point where Michael is like, you know what, God, she needs to learn something, and she needs to go through this by herself. Like, you know, he is so in tune with God that he literally listens to God's voice. Like, when God's like, go get her, he goes gets her. When God's like, let her be. And it's just really inspiring to read something like that, something that gives you hope and not to give up on faith. And I'm gonna get a little preach here, but like, you know, when we're at our worst, you know, God never forsakes us. So it's just nice to have that in a story. And you would think, because this story is based on a Bible story, that that it would be fluffy and beautiful and so nice, but like no, like there's dark, gritty moments in this book, and you feel that, and it's not just like one time, you feel it from beginning to end. Like when, you know, she gets sold to that child predator, when she goes back to prostitution and has to sell herself, and you know, feels like that's the only value she has to anybody. Like, you know, you feel like these gritty, dark moments, and I feel like they're so, like, even though obviously the time period, like, not relatable, but the situations in life, the emotions, like, that is truly like relatable. Like we've all been there, where we feel like unworthy of love or anything positive because we're hard on ourselves because of the situations that we sometimes feel we put ourselves in. I 100% recommend this book. This was definitely a 5-star read for me. But that's it for my January wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. I do have 2 copies of this book. I got one in that worldwide book exchange, and then I had accidentally bought myself another one. So in this video I am going to be giving one away. If you're interested in this book, just comment down below an email or an Instagram name somewhere where I can reach out and reach you so I can send this book to you. I'm just gonna pick someone at random. So if you're interested in reading this story or owning this book, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know in the comments down below just some way to reach you so I can mail this out to you. That's it for my January wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys read any interesting books this month, let me know down in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and until next time.